Today we're going to be sketching a watch in perspective. And the reason why I like drawing watches is it's challenging, right? It's basically two ellipses overlapping one another in space. And ellipses in perspective can be challenging to draw. Then you put two in two different planes and you have something that's kind of difficult. So I'll start with that main ellipse of the face, and you'll notice I'm doing some concentric ellipses that radiate off of that and show some chamfering. And I'll start to define the underside of it, basically the body of the case. And then off of that I'll start to build, okay, let's get some lugs on here, right? So the lugs are what attach to the strap, to the attachment. And now I'm starting to fill out that other ellipse, which basically is the wrist cross section, right? So now that I have the overall ellipses sketched out in space, I can start to add some detail. So let's say like this strap is actually a system of lugs that are offset from one another. I'm going to start breaking those out in space, giving that a little bit of thickness, and just defining a little bit of the geometry of these kind of rounded pill-shaped parts. The next ellipse to get into space is what's called the crown. So the crown is how you change the time. That intersects the main case of the watch. Let's say there's maybe a little step in here, kind of protects the crown so you don't bump it on anything, but it allows your finger to get in there easily. I feel like I got the overall design kind of sketched out. I'm going to put a clean sheet over top, just going to neaten it up a little bit, right? It got a little too messy. I'll just come in with my outer ellipse, and I'll start reflecting the inner ellipses that break up that case and face. Get my crown in there, and then offset that case outer ellipse and get the body. I'm notching my lugs. They kind of fit into that step in the case nicely, showing that perspective, and then coming back in with the links of my strap. I'm just keeping it real loose at this point with a ballpoint pen. Not going too crazy on line weight, just getting the design kind of sketched in there so that I can get it all roughed out before I start shading it in and doing any color pops. Defining all those little articulating links, and let's just get a few on the back side real loosely sketched in. We don't have to go crazy here, it's kind of the back. You don't want to over detail the far side of the sketch. And now that we got the line work roughed in, I'm going to go with like an indigo blue on this face and just kind of tone the whole thing down really roughly. Then I'm going to come back in with a slightly darker blue, kind of pop out that chamfering bevel that wraps around the whole face there, just to give a little bit of dimension so you can understand what's going on underneath the crystal. But we don't want to over render it. We're going to come back in with a reflection across that entire crystal anyway. Decided I'm just going to leave the marker really to the face for the most part. So I'm going to start coming back in here and shading some of these parts. Let's say maybe this underside case back is actually black. Gives the illusion of the case being thinner than it is. Now maybe we'll add a little bit of blue on the crown too, just to give it a little bit of a color pop. Alright, coming back in with the ballpoint, and we'll start to add some dimension to these shapes. So a little bit of a shading around the side of the case makes that pop out. Maybe just a little bit of a highlight on that edge. So I'm just going to basically put a little bit of an ellipse around that to show that. Let's put a cast shadow on the back side of that rear strap and start shading in that. Just give it a little bit of a definition between what's hitting the light and what's not hitting the light. Come back in, get those rounded links in there. Get that inside of that rear lug, and a little bit of the case side shaded here. And just tightening this down. I feel like this ellipse got to come a little bit further out. That's okay. I'll just hit it with the pen here. Getting a center line across that bezel, and let's put a reflection right across the whole thing. So I'm just coming in with some white pencil, firing down a little bit of a reflection so that you know that surface is over top of the base of the face. Now it comes time for the indices. So I'll start with a 12 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, then I'll go 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock indices, and then I know there's 2 hours in between each of those. So I'll dot those in with my white opaque pen and indicate some quick hands. I'm gonna kind of let that dry. I'll start working some other parts of the sketch before I work back into those. And maybe there's some second indices that go around that chamfer. No one's gonna count to 60 here, so I'm just kind of indicating them real quick. Alright, now that that opaque pen is dry, I'm working back into those hands. There's a little bit of a shadow on the bottom side of them, and let's throw a second hand in here too. Maybe that second hand's black. A little cast shadow on that as well. I think we need a Sharpie just to pop the outer outline of this. So coming back in here, back into my ballpoint line work, and just quickly outlining the outer edges of the sketch just to make it read off the page a little bit. Let's get maybe some details on that crown, and then maybe some notched in little grips. When you pull it out, it's easier to spin. A little bit more cast shadow on that rear strap, and just a little touch, a hint on what's going on with those links, but I don't want to go too crazy with it. That's it, guys. Quick watch sketch. Keep sketching, everybody. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'd love to hear your requests for future videos.